I want to share with you my sales communication model. I adapted this from neuro-linguistic programming, and I adapted this because 99% of the people that I ever train, 99% of the people that I've traveled with and seen their sales pitch, 99% of the people that I was on the receiving end of their sales pitch ended up just trying to pitch their product. And so, what I equate this to is, do you sell the steak or do you sell the sizzle? And so let's talk about how do you sell the sizzle rather than the steak. And let me talk about a little bit about how to frame up your communication. And this starts building upon how do you create hot cognitions for people? How do you create those hot cognitions so you create attention, that dopamine and the norepinephrine, so people pay attention to you? And here it is. At the top of any communication is the abstract. At the bottom are the specifics. At the top is the big picture. At the bottom are the details, the product. At the top are the goals and the problems of your clients. Now notice the goals. What does that remind you of? Dopamine. Problems. What does that remind you of? Norepinephrine. And so ultimately, and then at the bottom is the product. So ultimately, where do most salespeople start their sales presentation? Where do you think? Invariably, it's the product and the details. Now, going through this training, you're going to say, well, obviously you should be around the goals and the problems of the client and of the prospect. And so how do you change your communication strategies? And so ultimately, it's like the forest and the trees. I always say, if you're lost among the trees, how do you get out? I tell the joke, well, if you're with my wife, you ask her which way, you can go the opposite way and you're home free. She's bad with directions. But ultimately, if you're lost among the trees, you can chunk up to the forest and see where to navigate. So have you ever been in a sales meeting where it goes like this? Well, this product's better. Well, no, my product's better. Well, no, they cost more. Well, mine costs less. Or whatever it is, they cost less. It's this whole thing here, right? And every time you do that, you're lost among the trees. So you have to chunk back up to the forest so you can see where to navigate. And the forest are the problems and goals of your clients. And so ultimately, let me tell you a simple story here. So a guy comes in and I was selling him a financial plan. I was recommending a financial plan to him. And so we were going to roll over about $600,000 into my strategy. And so when the guy came back in, he said, hey, Matt, I don't like your strategy. Or I need to know more information about it. And so what did I do? I did what every salesperson out there would do. I sold harder. I told them more about the products, more about the details. I told them everything about it. But ultimately then when I was going home, what did I say to myself? Dang it, I didn't chunk back up to his goals and problems. So even skilled communicators, sometimes take the bait and go down to the product and the details. So here's a heuristic, here's a sales model, here's a communication model that I keep in my mind is, do I chunk up or do I chunk down? So he was so chunked down saying the product and the details, I don't like it, I need to know more. When at the end of the day, it didn't matter what the product or the details were. It was the problems and goals that I was solving. Does it matter what the product and the details are? You're going to accomplish your goals. You're going to eliminate all these problems that we foresee in your plan. So it doesn't matter what the product is if you're going to get your goals, if you're going to accomplish and bypass all your problems. And that's really what it boils down to, that if we can satisfy all your goals, we can eliminate all your problems, doesn't matter how we get there. And so when you have that kind of mentality, you don't get caught down in the product and the details. You don't get caught down in the weeds. You can chunk up to the forest and the goals and the problems of your clients. And so throughout the sales training, throughout the e-learning platform, this is the sales communication model that I use. And it's really all about how do you frame up all your conversations around the goals and the problems of your clients, not just your product and details. So when you think about, how do I ask the right questions? You're going to ask questions around the goals and problems of your client. How do I pitch my product? You're going to pitch your product around the goals and problems of your client. You're going to pitch your product in such a way that you're going to communicate with the limbic brain. You're going to create hot cognitions. You're going to fire dopamine and norepinephrine by accomplishing their goals and eliminating their problems. And if they don't do business with you, their problems are going to persist and their tension in their body is going to persist. But when they do business with you, you can eliminate all their problems and accomplish all their goals. And so that is the sales communication model. You don't want to get chunked down and caught in the product and the details. You want to chunk back up to the big picture where the goals and the problems are solved. Now, the best communicators obviously can go down to the product and details, back up to the goals and problems, and have that flexibility to chunk down to the trees and chunk back up to the forest. And this whole communication model within of itself, there are 9 presuppositions to communication. There are 19 language patterns that control the big picture. There are 9 language strategies and patterns that control the specifics. And there's 2 lateral thoughts, reframes, and storytelling that control lateral thinking and thinking out of the box, which we're going to communicate and teach you all of these ideas all on this e-learning platform each and every day, each and every week, so you can be more successful, connect with people emotionally, and close more business.
I wanna get restless.